Hello and welcome to this episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I am your host, Anna Orr, and today I have a very special guest. I am talking to the CEO and founder of Provisionary Childcare right here in the Twin Cities, and she is talking about helping you maybe potentially alleviate the burden of childcare costs, about the focus being an Afrocentric focus for kids, teaching them things about their identity, loving themselves, and hopefully furthering the history and legacy of community right here in the Twin Cities. This is going to be a wonderful episode you won't want to miss. Stay tuned. Today's guest is Danielle Tucker. You are the CEO and founder of Provisionary Childcare here in the Twin Cities. Welcome to Community Connections.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we are talking about an issue that is affecting so many people across the United States. Currently, the numbers are as follows. There are upwards of about 40% of American families struggling to find affordable child care. Mm-hmm. I think that is an exorbitant percentage of people that are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to have good and safe child care for their children, but also how they're going to afford it consistently. Mm-hmm. Secondary numbers are as follows. A new report from the Economic Policy Institute shares that child care for one infant now costs more than rent in 17 states and more than in-state college tuition in 38 states. That means that these increasing costs mean more parents of young children are at a crossroads, having to decide if they are going to drop out of work or if they are going to have to take a pay cut to reassess their savings or even their salaries being eaten up by child care costs. Is this something that you feel like you are hearing from parents and people in your community?
I would say that I'm not hearing it necessarily from people because I'm not having a lot of those conversations, but that's something that I experienced firsthand. Because the reality is that what it costs to operate childcare in a center, just paying those people's livable wages and providing the needs, meeting the ratios for children, it doesn't correlate with the wages that people are earning. So it is either you work and pay your rent twice or your mortgage twice to someone to care for your child while you work, or you stop working to care for your child, or the worst alternative is that people are leaving their children maybe in unsafe or not the best care or situation so that they can still earn an income and hope for the best that their child would just be okay. It is a horrible mismatch that doesn't really work, and specifically I think in this country it doesn't work because of the cost of things and because of what we pay individuals and what families can earn based on, what their families have access to from generations before them. And so it will, in order for us to really live healthy lives and have our children healthy, we will have to return to some communal living, some village-like principles where money isn't the exchange of cash or dollar for care, but it might need to be hey, are you working a hybrid schedule? I'm working a hybrid schedule too. How can we mix and match and support one another to care for our children? And something that my family personally did, we split shifts. So when we had our first child, my husband worked in the morning, I worked evenings, and we just would do that transfer of the child. But it also then we weren't spending as much time with each other as a family. And so I think that is an issue that really would just require unfortunately the government to show up, or for people to show up for each other to mitigate that issue, or it probably will continue to increase in the numbers that you just stated.
Now, Danielle, you've talked to me a little bit about what you've done for yourself as a parent and in your own family unit, but what is the history of you in child care or working with kids thus far?
So my history of working in child care started when the sibling after me was born, because, as an older sibling, you're always in child care, you're always looking out for one another, in that first kind of communal exchange of someone who's not necessarily at your same age. And so it started there with being an older sibling to my younger siblings. And then my work started professionally with the YMCA in 2007. So after high school, I started working in an after-school program, working with elementary children. And then as my family grew, like cousins and siblings had kids, I was just around, and whenever I was available, we were doing childcare. Informally, I would say that that's just the way we live. And then when I gave birth to my second born in 2018, I started thinking about, okay, like what is previous question we just talked about, right? Like, okay, we're either gonna not see each other or we're gonna spend all of our money on childcare. What kind of remedies, or how can we remedy this situation? And I also just wanted to spend more time with my babies. And so from that, I began to explore what it would look like to homeschool them. What did childcare look like? Learning that if you wanted to do a preschool, no, that's technically childcare in the state of Minnesota, so you have to go through the childcare licensing process. And so I guess I would say all of my life, and then after high school it became more formal. Also spent a lot of time even in high school in my church serving in the youth department, so hanging out with young people. I remember the first group I had out of high school was kindergartners, and now they're graduated college and young adults themselves, and so teaching them just the basic principles of what we believe. And so I would say childcare has just been ingrained in my life.
I was going to say, it sounds like you have quite a history actually working with kids and watching them get a chance to develop. Now, the child care center you run currently is called Provisionary Childcare. Where did that name come from?
So the name Provisionary is the registered name of my LLC, and it came from being a visionary, knowing that I see things that are not yet seen, and so or being creative and having ideas. So that's where the visionary piece, the pro prefix on the front of that just comes from professional, like believing that the things that I do, I should do them with excellence and with integrity. So equality and an education, not necessarily formal education, but just a knowing behind it. And the ARY, just the act of being, and so it's a blend of all three of those components. And then just a general belief that God would provide. And so that's where it came from. And then the different things that I have experienced or kind of toyed with from an entrepreneurial perspective of like creating things, crafting with kind of, we talked about earlier, t-shirts and custom things for individuals, being a resource because I take in a lot of information, sharing a lot of information. And so it just kind of bloomed from that. And as I also shared, coming out of being an employee as my primary source of income and wanting to move towards having income that was directed by the things that I wanted to do, that created kind of just this coming together of all the things that I valued and that I felt like I naturally did. And then we got Provisionary LLC, so I registered it and I just started going, and anything that I did it under that title. And then in family child care in Minnesota, actually you don't get a name. Your family child care is the license is under the license holder. So my name, Danielle Tucker, if you were to look up in licensing. And so then because I'm doing child care currently and building a preschool, that is kind of just the title that they just kind of given the name of the business. But my program specifically, I'm calling it Royal Reign, just to highlight the royalty that I see in our people, in our history, and what I want the children to embody, and then believing that like reign, that like the legacy or the like what the children will exude, like that's their legacy, that their education, their intellect, their culture, and their people, the people group that they come from, like that's a value and that should be seen as royal.
I think that's beautiful. Now, some people may have already caught on from looking at your beautiful attire and listening to what you were just saying about the idea for this center with the children, them being able to acknowledge their own royalty and their own Afrocentric identity. Where did that lead to for you wanting to implement this with kids daily?
I would say it dates back to my childhood. I grew up mostly in Minnesota. Most of my education years were spent here. And even in liberal arts programs or in any kind of formal institution that had the purpose of serving me for education, there were not people that looked like me. I think my first African American teacher was in middle school, and she was like the only. and I don't think I had none in high school that I can recall that were at my assigned level for my intellect, but they were kind of sometimes available for young people if you were struggling academically. So what led to the primary focus for the family child care and the preschool that I'm building being Afrocentric came from my experience of not having an Afrocentric childhood experience in education, post-secondary, or any of the educational experiences I really had. And it kind of gave me the silent impression that education and Afrocentric or having a pride about my culture, my identity didn't go together, like they were two obsolete things. And so I, as a student, yearned for an Afrocentric environment, and it's important to me as a mother to create that for my children and then for the other children around me. Like, I want us to be proud of who we are. I want us to know that our cultural identity does come with intellect. Like, we were the smartest, like, we are brilliant, we are resilient, and we can learn things, and it doesn't come with an exchange of our identity. Like, it doesn't come with whiteness. I don't know if I could say whiteness on here, but it doesn't come with that. But that was my experience, and it made me second guess if, like, my skin color, my melanin was if it was valuable. I think I didn't even have words like melanin when I was younger. Like, you know, that's kind of more trending now. Or even Afrocentric. Like, I didn't know that those things were missing. But I think that in my adult journey of kind of self-discovery, I realized that my educational experience to some degree was an erasure or an attempt at an erasure of my cultural identity. And I can't go for that, like, not for my kids. Even temporarily, my kids are in school, and this morning my 7-year-old said, "Mom," he named 2 students, and he said, "Their skin is brown like mine." And I was like, "Oh, and how does that make you feel?" And he said, "Happy." And that made me have a little bit of peace about sending my kids to an educational institution that is not created by me for a temporary moment while I build what they do need. So
I think that's very important. And I often say to people that representation is invaluable because it is proof that we exist in every arena across society. And I think it's important for us to celebrate ourselves in a society that doesn't often highlight or celebrate the gift and our value to the community at large. So I think it's beautiful that that is a focal point for you, and not just something that you offer to other people's children in your care, but it really does start at home and bloom outwards for the rest of the community to benefit from. Now, currently you guys are located right in the heart of North Minneapolis.
We are.
How did you all decide on that location was where you were going to plant yourselves?
Well, so how we decided was my pastor, Reverend Jerry McAfee, rehabs homes and sells them to families that would not normally access housing because of, again, some of the issues that are a part of our community here. So that was the first home that me and my husband purchased when we had one child and we're expecting our second. And that's where I'm doing the work that I just described of, like, building up the confidence and the cultural pride in my children. And so why not just open and share our space? So that's why we picked it, and we need it. There's not an Afrocentric school in North Minneapolis for preschool that is Montessori-based or inspired, and we're there, and we're going to do it.
So this next question is actually twofold. One, do you have any spaces available for someone that is interested in having their child or a child in their network join you at your child care center? Also, what are the age groups you are accommodating right now?
Yeah, I'll answer both. So yes, we do have space. We have about 6 vacancies right now, primarily serving ages 3 to 6 is our focus, but we are licensed up to age 10. We also can technically accept infants. We'll just have to kind of chat one-on-one about that if you have an infant that you're looking to enroll, because our primary focus will be kind of the preschool age of 3 to 6. And as we grow, we look to have more spaces available and to serve a broader age range.
I think that's beautiful that you said we are open to newborns and we can go as far as up to age 10, but our current focus is 3 to 6 years old. I don't know about anybody else, but if you have encountered a 3 to 6 year old, This is a gold mine for someone to say that they are interested in supporting your baby day to day. I don't know where you guys get the energy to navigate this, but my hat is off to you and every other child care provider that is working in this very specific space.
So much happens between the ages of 3 to 6. There's so much happening. Even because I am in Montessori training, we learned about it and talked about how you can't even speak directly to a 3-year-old's mind. So when you're saying, didn't I just tell you to do that? Or yesterday you put on your shoes, why aren't you putting on your shoes today? Why do you need them out today? And it's just like, yesterday was yesterday and today is today. And what you think and what you're saying is not necessarily what I'm thinking or saying. And though I hear your words and I maybe can comprehend, it doesn't translate to me doing what you said. Because there's some things that I'm thinking about doing, like jumping off the couch or running around in circles or jumping on a trampoline, and that means more to me than you asking me to put my shoes on. And so there is this kind of clash with that age group, but I think that if we learn more, we'll respect them more and actually just appreciate that they honor what's in their heart and what's in their mind versus conforming like we do in our later years.
Very important. I think that's very important and very well said. Like you said, they're not always focused on what we're trying to communicate to them. And also, what you said yesterday is not applicable to me in my mind today. I think that's very important, and I hope someone heard that at home, and that brings their blood pressure down just a little bit more if they're able to understand that concept from somebody that is in training. So listen to them, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what does registration look like to register to have their child with you guys? What were the proper channels, and what do parents need to be aware of?
So it would be first to reach out. So we would schedule an interview just to talk about what you're looking for your child, so that we can explain the Montessori methods, because it's not necessarily plain English or what everybody knows, and to decide too, like if what your family values and what I'm instilling in the children that I'm serving is a match for your family. So it would start with the inquiry, then we would interview, and then there's registration, and then the associated registration fees, and then we kind of get going from there.
I think that is important information for people to have. And then how are people able to stay connected to you and what you all are doing at Provisionary Childcare?
People are able to stay connected they can call me or text me. We also have a website, it's provisionary.org. They can also email me at admin@provisionary.org. And I have some social channels, but they're mostly for my craft. So if you see me doing craft stuff, it's the same me. So you can contact me there as well.
And then the phone number for anybody that is interested in reaching out just to have a chat, or they may have a newborn that they want to talk to you about.
Yeah, that they want to talk. 612-470-4182. And it's I can take phone calls or text messages at that number.
And lastly, how do we continue to support the work of Provisionary Childcare as you guys expand your wings and as Royal Reign develops even further for the community at large?
Yeah, so ways people can support is, one, if you have any Montessori materials that are not being used in your network, we would love to take them. As we know, Montessori materials are expensive. If people have cultural artifacts or cultural pieces of work that they would like to share with us to put in the space, like last week I was able to get a Kanara that's hand carved wooden, and it was so beautiful. And so kind of just what I talked about earlier, those things are not necessarily readily accessible to our families. One, two, if you're trying to afford childcare, right? If you're trying to afford where you live and other necessities for your family, those things are not always readily available. So if you have any of those things that you are not using, either Afrocentric materials or Montessori materials, bring them our way. If you would like to make a financial donation, there's a spot on the bottom of our website to do that. If you want to contact me, if you want to serve, if you know how to knit or sew. I'm trying to learn how to sew, but a lot of the materials are also handmade. So if you have some fabric or your hand that you want to lend, if you're an author and you want to share stories with children or families, all those ways would be ways that people can support. If you have a praying faith like mine, you can pray for us. You can keep us lifted. You can keep the babies and the families lifted in prayer. Pray for the vision, and pray that God would have his way and that he would get glory, and that babies would get to learn in an environment that sees their sees their cultural identity, celebrates their cultural identity, where they don't have to apologize and they can show up and learn.
I think that is beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Danielle Tucker. It has been wonderful talking to you about all the amazing things you guys are doing at Provisionary Childcare and what you guys plan to do in the near future. I think it is important that we get back to some of the traditional ways that we know culturally of taking care of one another and showing up for each other and helping become the village that our children and our families need to continue our legacy in the days, weeks, and months, and hopefully years ahead. As always, I am your host, Anna Orr. This has been Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. As always, I look forward to connecting again with you soon.